Hello all, this is our extended version of the interview we had with John Stallard after our walkabout at Warlord Games. I hope you get a sense of the joy that it is to hang out with him. He has this infectious humor and enthusiasm that never fails to put a smile on my face. And of course, after this, we went over to his place, played Bolt Action, one of the pinnacle experiences of wargaming for myself.
Tales from the Outer Rim.
So we're here at, hello, we're here at Warlord.
Hello.
John Stallard.
Am I going to be looking at that, or am I going to be
You know, you can look at whatever. Yeah, you can look at me. We can look at together. All right. So when I was a kid, the interview's not about me, by the way, just so you know. Okay. So, but when I was a kid, I used to set up my cowboys and Indians. They were blue Union soldiers and brown plastic Indians, North American Native Americans. And we would have, I would have pillows and fence lines and you know, pillow hills and grass blankets, and I would give the warriors names and the Union soldiers a story and everything. And I think that's kind of where I started being a wargamer. Do you have experiences like that when you're a kid? Like, do you start off toy soldiers? Like, what I'm trying to ask is, how far back in time do you think your wargaming?
Well, I recognise that very much, Teras. When I was a boy of 5, I lived in Glasgow, up in Scotland. I had a much different accent to this one, I can tell you. And when my father went away on business, he ordered 15 hundredweight, I think, of sand to come. He was doing a building project, and unfortunately, the builder delivered 15 tons of sand. Just put it in our driveway. No, actually on the pavement outside. When my poor mother was just there, and and he was away for a week. So 15 tons of sand, or it might have been 30 tons of sand. It was a sand mountain. It was enormous. And my poor old mum, using a shovel and a wheelbarrow, was trying to move 15 tons of sand because it was just blocking the pavement. And she was a very game lady. And in the end, some neighbours came to help. But eventually, over a period of 3 days, we moved it all inside our driveway. And the point of this story is, it gave me my sand table for my soldiers. So all my Airfix soldiers and my Timpo soldiers, Foreign Legion and Arabs and Mexicans and Cowboys and Indians, it was perfect. Massive, so I could sculpt my massive sand table. I could walk across it, you know, for about 15 feet or 20 feet, 30 feet. And so that was my outside war games table. And slowly you'd lose the odd soldier, he'd get buried, but you'd find him later on. And so yeah, that was very formative and very character building for my mother.
Character building for your mother.
So yeah, it was all started for us in the UK. It's always Airfix.
Right.
Soldiers were they were cheap, they were cheerful,
right.
Very well detailed, a lot of them, and yeah, but just affordable. So with your 2 shillings, which is 10p these days, you could go down to the shop and buy a box every week with your pocket money. Just a little box of soldiers.
Right.
But that was the highlight of the week. Just go and buy something else. So yeah, no, definitely that. And you're right. Your imagination fills in all these things. You put rivers in made of silver paper. That's your river.
Right. Exactly.
Terrible now.
No, that's right.
It looked good to us.
That's right. All you have to do.
And these case. It's funny though, but even despite being 7 or 8, it's funny what aesthetics you do have. I never mix the scales.
Right.
Some people mix scales, which I just thought was weird.
Right.
These are obviously 20mm, you can't put 28mm model. It's just wrong. And I just knew it as an aesthetic. Very odd.
Cool. No, that explains a lot actually, because I mean, right? You have a company that specializes in that, and
that's true.
Maybe that was the beginning of it, really.
Definitely.
Right.
That's been my principal interest since 5, really. Wow. First box of Airfix soldiers, probably the Japanese World War II.
Wow, that's all.
They still make them.
Yeah.
Same models.
In one of my trips, we went to Waterloo, and several of the people that were on the trip were talking about how this is their first time on the battlefield, and some of the structures there were air-fixed structures, and it was amazing for them to add that childhood memory to an adult memory.
Sure.
So when speaking about that, when I'm on tour, and I know Warlord's a successful company and growing all the time, and you produce awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Success is an interesting thing, I think, as we get older, to try to define. And when I'm looking at success, I feel most success when I'm on tour, when someone is rolling a game and they're laughing, or watching a bit of Star Trek or something and they're really enjoying it, or whatever that tour is all about. Do you have a definition of success? It doesn't have to be financial. It can be it can mean anything. Do you have like how do you define success as a war game person?
Two things for me is enjoying going to work every day, because I just love it. Going into it, I don't work 8 hours a day. I've got very good staff who do a lot of the hard work and the heavy lifting.
Right.
But bringing your brain to bear on product is great fun.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. So enjoying coming to work, chatting to the guys and girls, and I find that very satisfying. A couple of projects that my favourite regiment, if you like, of all time was the Scots Greys, who charged famously at Waterloo.
Right.
Quite obsessed with that regiment.
Okay,
And just 2 months ago, I was able to produce them in plastic
Oh,
for the first time ever. So
See?
that, for me, is a defining moment. I can die happy now.
Right.
But I've made the Scots Greys in plastic.
Right. So you can say from those Airfix days,
Yes.
that you've created the ones that you ultimately.
Oh, I
want
was
to
mad at
keep and all
Airfix
that
because
stuff.
they never did the Scots Greys,
Right.
which was the most famous British cavalry regiment of the Napoleonic period.
Right.
And secondly, which is also non-financial, but there's no doubt about it, I am pleased. We've got 82 of us now working at Warlord,
Right.
and I'm really pleased that I'm helping pay 82 people's mortgages and just helping everybody, and it's good fun.
In a lot of ways, they're all wargamers, or
Well,
it's they might be accountants, not playing, but they're still related to wargaming in a way.
And even the girls who don't, on the whole, play the games, they like the models, and they
Yeah,
just think
yeah.
it's a cool place to work at,
Yeah.
because there's a model soldier company, and it's much better than packing widgets or
Yeah,
muffins
that's right.
something god awful that real people have to do in real life.
Yeah, your assistant Kay, she was sitting at the painting table when we came in,
Yes,
so that was like, wow.
she's a good example.
Yeah.
She's smart as you like, and really contributes in all levels to the business.
Right. And we've got a lot of options now as wargamers. Do you think that this is a golden age of wargaming, and do you think that we're what direction we're headed? Do you see any visions for the future, or do you have nostalgic for the past, or is it kind of a blur?
No, it's a really good question. Great question. We live in interesting times. I absolutely agree that there's never been a better time to be a wargamer. I've got no time for the naysayers. When people say, oh, it's a greying hobby. Well, I've got news for those guys. It was always a greying hobby.
Yeah.
It was always crusty old men with a pipe.
Right.
Playing Brigadier Peter Young, any of the old guys who were Donald Featherstone, all these,
Right.
Charles Grant. They're all old guys.
Right.
Well, my age now.
Right.
But I go to conventions. There's loads of youngsters and younger people.
Yeah.
Because geek is chic.
Yeah, that's for sure it is, yeah.
30 years ago, 40 years ago, rather, when I was at school, I'd get roughed up for playing with toy soldiers.
Right, of course.
Because you're the geek playing with toy soldiers.
Yeah.
Grow out of it.
Yeah.
So as these guys playing soccer.
Yeah, that's right.
Child's
It's the
game
same
as well.
thing.
Same thing as child's game.
It is totally the same thing.
But now, with Come Games Workshop and all that, it's just a rite of passage for
Yeah.
every young lad to go through, and they flirt with it or they keep it.
Right.
So I think it's a marvellous time to be in wargaming. When I was stumbling into it, there just were no books. You'd have to go to the library and hope that Charge by Brigadier Young, one of the books, was in stock. And if you could, you'd steal it because you couldn't get it anywhere else.
That's right.
Now with the internet, you can find any models in any scale. You can have them pre-painted for you.
Right.
You can go to the battlefields. You can do anything. It's too easy, if anything. And people still moan about it being an expensive hobby, and it's not.
I know.
Not
Not
with
compared to
plastics.
other hobbies.
Well, go mountain biking,
Yeah,
$6,000,
exactly.
$8,000 for a bike.
Or get an all-terrain vehicle, or
Skiing,
skiing.
any of these things, or
Yeah,
computer
for sure,
gaming.
Sure.
You
And it's
know?
actually better for parents because hockey in Canada is way more expensive
I'm
than
sure
more
it
gaming
is. I'm
is.
sure it is. And so I think it's a fantastic time. It's a fantastic hobby. All the developments in paints, acrylics. In the old days, it used to be smelly enamel paints, which are
Right.
hideous and ruin your clothes
they're awful.
and your carpet, and your mum would kill you.
Yeah.
But
Pretty much.
it's just fantastic now. And as the hobby going, I think it's very interesting. It seems to be moving at the moment to a skirmish level.
Right.
People seem to want 10, 12 models a side, and that's the current fashion. And that's fine too. That's lovely. People
Yeah.
dipping into little periods.
Right.
But there's also room for the massive battles as well.
Right.
So with the plastic models, you can afford to buy big armies
Right.
these days. And so no, a marvellous time to be a gamer.
Cool. And I know that you've got a new ship game coming. Is
I
that
have.
true? Is that
It's a complete
something you
secret.
can talk about? Is it really?
Nobody knows.
Oh no. Okay.
Nobody knows.
Oops.
No, that's all right. No, you can keep that in.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, well, we've got Blood Red Skies coming out shortly.
Okay.
Which is the miniature planes.
Right.
And then we'll have a miniature ship game coming out too, which is really cool.
Cool. So, actually, the question was going to be what you dabble in scales all over the
Yes.
place in Warlord then. Like,
Well, we haven't done until now.
So
Until
now
now.
you're all over the.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna,
Yeah. Some things suit better different scales.
do you find what do you game in mostly?
28 millimeter.
28
Yeah,
millimeter?
28 mil.
Have you ever gamed a lot smaller or a lot bigger?
Well, 28 mil is God's size. That's how
Right.
war games are meant to be. Just fact. Something about an inch tall in the palm of your hand is what God said.
God
War games soldiers should be that big. Some people do 15 mil, cheapskates.
Right.
And some, quite a few people now do 40 mil.
Yeah.
I think it's as our eyes go.
Yeah, as bigger as better.
And some-
54 pretty soon.
It will be. And those type of skirmish games are fantastic.
Right.
of course.
I've never played at 54. I'd like to try.
My comment on 15 mil is being slightly cheeky. I think 15 mil is fantastic for quite a few periods, like American Civil War, where there's whole long lines and
Right.
reinforcement waves coming through. I think it's brilliantly done for 15 mil. But for God's sake, don't just buy 24 models as you would for a 28 millimeter.
Right.
Buy twice or
Twice.
three times as
Oh,
many to
yeah,
make it
you
look
want
good.
it to
make it look
so you have
good.
that huge mass troop.
Yeah.
15 is sometimes problematic for me as a painting because it's almost as if 15 you have to do the same effort as 28.
Well, you should be talking to Brian Ansell.
Oh, it's,
Brian did various scales, trying different scales, and it gives a very good talk about why 15 mil is not a good scale to produce war games figures. It's because the designers they can't help themselves. They put all the detail on
Right,
that they
right.
would on a 28 millimeter model.
Right.
Once the detail's on it, you have to paint it. It's just fact. You have to
Right.
paint it all. So you drive yourself nuts painting. Buttons on a 15 mil model.
Right.
And it's just madness. You
It's-
can't
it's
see them. And you
madness.
wouldn't in reality be able to see them at that range, would you? You know.
exactly.
But it also, so you put all that effort in, but equally, it costs as much to cast a 15 millimeter model
Oh, really?
as it does a 28 millimeter model.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Because so little of the cost of a model is the metal.
Right.
That's the smallest bit of the cost on spinning a model. But you have to. It takes you as long to spin the mold, open it, and take one. In fact, it takes longer
Right.
to take fiddly 15 millimeter models off individually.
Oh, right. Of course, you're.
Individually
Oh,
doing
because
that.
you have to pop at the same
So in
thing.
fact, it takes you longer,
Right.
arguably,
Right,
to cast
right.
them. And yet a wargamer will only want to pay 12 cents for one.
Right. But it's worse
yeah.
to produce.
So,
Wow, that's really
It's
interesting.
not
I didn't know
wargamer's
that.
fault, but I'm just telling you that
Yeah,
that's the way it is.
Wow, that's interesting.
It is.
And then what about smaller scales, 6 or 9 or
6 mil,
Yeah,
300.
six.
Yeah, I think 300 mil is, you want 300th. It's kind of good for those huge tank battles that
Right.
we all would like to do in our heads.
Right, exactly.
But again, if you're going to do pike and shot or ancients, big regiments.
Yeah, because you want that
Big
color
ones,
and the whole thing.
Alexander the Great's army, all just laid out in their
Yeah,
phalanxes,
that's right, right.
But not just 12 men.
No. You
It
want
just
it.
looks
You're
dark.
still going to get it big, right?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
got to be
what's-
big.
Damn it! There's no shortcut.
No.
Can you tell us a little bit how Warlord started? Yeah, tell us a little.
Sure, I can. Well, I worked very happily for Games Workshop for about 25 years, and but was made redundant. And so I thought, what am I going to do? I think, well, the last thing I want to do is carry on making toy soldiers. And the last thing I did was make toy soldiers. So I sat around my kitchen table with my pal Paul Sawyer, who'd also been made redundant. And together with my dog, we set up Warlord Games. So it's 2 men and a dog. 10 years ago, up from 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 10 years now.
Wow.
And we thought, well, let's make some Roman plastic models, because nobody had done Romans.
Right.
In fact, nobody had done any historical 28mm plastics.
Right.
But unbeknownst to me, the evil Perry twins
Oh,
were making some American Civil War models, which they kind of coughed and said, right, John, yeah, we're doing these, just so you know. I thought, that's interesting, but thank God we were doing something different.
Right.
So they went to market with their American Civil War guys, then we went to market about 2 months later with our Romans and Celts.
Wow.
So we were only going to do a couple of plastic box sets, but they're so expensive to manufacture plastics. We quite often get, are you going to make Romanian infantry for World War II?
Right.
And I have to say, well, we might do them in metal, but there's no way we could afford to do them in plastic. I mean, I still remember writing the cheque for my Romans, and it was £26,000.
Oh, wow.
That was, and writing that, I'd never written a cheque that big before. I had to check the number, is that right, zeros? £26,000. And this is all my redundancy money going in here. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it.
Yeah.
And that's, so you have to, and you're paying up front, of course.
Right.
So that takes tooling about 3-4 months. Then you've got to pay your actual sculptor to make the models in the first place. That's another few £1,000s.
Right.
So he's got to sculpt them, then you've got to manufacture them. And then, of course, then if you do get distribution of them through distributors or trade shop, there's another 30 days before they pay you your money. So you've got about a 6-7 month gap being completely in the red before you get anything back.
Oh,
you just got to hold your nerve and hope that people are going to like what you're making. So you've really got to pick your targets well. It's so expensive to set up.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, here you are. And
Yeah.
So you're kind of living a dream. Do you get that? Do you get
Yeah.
that? I get that every once in a while. I'm kind of living in a dream
I do.
almost. Like,
And if I'm being serious, I suppose I'm not lucky. I made it happen.
yeah, you work at it for sure.
And my old headmaster, wonderful Roman Catholic priest, did say to my mum and dad, I don't know what John's going to do,
Right.
but if he could just find something that embraces his passion about model soldiers, I'm sure he'll do very well.
Oh wow, there you go.
Priests are rarely wrong.
What did your parents think?
Oh, they loved it.
Yeah, they
Loved it.
loved
Oh,
it.
they didn't like their first 5 years at Games Workshop.
Oh, okay.
It was always, are you going to get a real job?
Are you gonna? And you're still living with your folks at that time,
No,
right? You moved
no,
out,
I'd
and you
moved
moved
out.
out, and you're working at GW,
Yeah.
and they're like, "You're gonna get a real job."
Going to get a real job. And then I did become sales director, and they were then happy.
Happy that you moved up the line a little
They're
bit.
very pleased with Workshop, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good days. I mean, Games Workshop are fantastic teachers, very good educators. Do a lot of training with people.
Yeah. Tell me what you like to do outside of gaming. Do you do historical reenactments? Are you a history fan? You like to read about history? Are you go and bowl during the week? Is there anything that you like to do?
Nobody goes bowling.
No.
Nobody.
No, nobody goes bowling in Canada.
Thank God for that. Just checking. To the above, well, I did 30 years of English Civil War reenacting. I really enjoyed that. They were fantastic days. Just immensely funny. Still got great mates from that. I miss it.
Yeah.
Too old and big now. But I did love it. Royalists, of course.
Royalists.
The good guys. Then the other thing we do is occasionally me and my mates, we just go on a battlefield tour, of which you know a lot.
Right,
We did,
right.
We've done a Battle of the Bulge, Waterloo a few times.
Nice.
And best one that we did was Custer's Last Stand. That was fantastic. What an amazing time we had there. Really, really interesting battlefield. So yeah, doing that is good fun. Yeah, obviously reading. I have a very tall, quite a, not a wide house, so I've got a very tall house. It's got 3 floors.
Right.
So I've just got a pile of books on every floor. So I'm reading 6 or 7 books all at one time. no matter where I am. So
What? So you judge how far you've gotten by
yeah.
the story?
Well, I can't help it. I just can't help it. You know, get up in the morning, go and read some books before coming to work.
That's awesome. But that, I mean, clearly helps here
It does.
too, right?
No, a lot of it is research, to be fair.
Right.
And do a lot of proofreading for you know, when any of our books come out.
But when you read like that, again, that happens to me just recently. I'm doing a podcast, and I was reading an Osprey book about the Gladius and
Oh yes,
Pelham,
yeah.
right? And I'm sitting on the couch going, oh, I got to get this done. I better read this. And I'm like, this is my job. This is crazy. You know, do you ever get do you get that
Every day.
Yeah. It's just
Every
a
day.
weird
I'd sit here
thing,
with a
right?
cup of tea, reading a book.
Yeah,
On
that's
motor torpedo boats, thinking,
yeah, that's about right.
I was in fact doing this morning. I was reading one about landing craft, allied landing craft. Thinking, oh, this is good. I'm really enjoying this. Have a second cup of tea, then go to work.
That's
This is
awesome.
work because it's getting into my book.
Yeah, that's right. So you get to justify it. Do you? What type of gamer are you? Do you like to? Are you a list builder? Are you a narrative guy? Are you a campaign guy? Or all of the above? Or what do you like the best when you go to the table?
I think people who know the rules are cheating.
Yeah.
I can tell you that for a start. That's just cheating. Damn those rules lawyers, or anybody who knows the rules. I'm a romantic player.
Oh, that's good.
I enjoy setting the models out,
Yeah.
and then I could cheerfully walk away from the game.
Oh, that's awesome.
I hear the you know I hear the horses whinnying,
Right,
and the
right.
musketry going off. But then I just want to go get a beer or sit down with a cup of tea.
You know,
And I'd rather have a team of young lads moving my models around. For
right,
me.
right.
Really, because and of course you have your favourite units, and it really pains me when they get flattened.
Right,
Oh,
right,
that
right.
makes me so cross.
That's right.
But I think don't be a child. It's a game, but it
That's
still
right.
makes me feel cross.
Of course,
Like
yes.
Scots
yes,
Greys have
yes,
been
we
annihilated
have
again.
We do have some investments, all right?
And equally, it's terrible. I hate it. Not that it happens that often when I give my opponent a pasting.
A
I don't
pasting?
like
Oh,
that
yeah,
either, 'cause
yeah,
It makes
yeah.
me feel embarrassed. I think, oh no, I'm really sorry.
Well,
Apart from Rick
last
last night.
night, I have. That's my. It's funny because that's my. That for me, that's what I try to do is that Zen moment where you're not even remembering that you're gaming. There's someone shooting in a ruin or something, and all you remember is that, or you're thinking about just what's happening to those miniatures on the table. But I never really thought about the setup before. I'm gonna have to really look at that
Oh, I
next
love
time
it.
because it's the same thing. That Zen moment where everybody's just standing there, the flags are going
Exactly.
and
It's in
everything.
full panoply when you're looking
Yeah,
at that.
that's
And that
awesome.
is the when people say there is no glory in war. Well, I understand that people get shot and wounded, and I agree there is
Right.
no true glory in war.
Right.
But you can't pretend that it didn't look glorious.
Oh,
at
yeah,
times.
for
It
sure,
does look
yeah.
astonishing, and
Yeah.
all the writers tell us that.
Yeah. That's why there's novels and movies and
It is,
everything,
and
right?
it is an appeal to it, and
Right.
so yeah, beautiful terrain, reasonably painted models, and I do like a good scenario.
Right.
It's got to be fighting for some reason.
There's got to be a reason.
So a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Can you talk to that just about that just a little bit? Because I know that a lot of people play science fiction or fantasy, and when they're thinking about going into historical, they're saying, "Well, the story's kind of been told," or a little bit. How do you do that? What's your advice, or what? How do you see that? Do you see when you're playing on the table, you don't say that the story's been told clearly, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, there's so many battles. It's most of the battles I would fight would be not straight recreations.
Right.
It would be hypothetical battles.
Right.
Or a different setup.
Right.
Different setup to the main one. Right. Otherwise, you will end up with the apps. If you fight Waterloo exactly as everybody was, I find that a bit dull.
right.
If I'm honest, I'd rather fight a scenario battle, say an encounter
Right.
battle,
Like an
or
encounter battle.
you've got to take those bridges in 8
Right.
turns. Or
Oh,
whatever
right,
it is,
okay.
that sort of stuff, and it gives it attention. I mean, there's so many battles that are even unrecorded,
Right,
or have
right,
never
of
been
course, of
refought.
course.
So I'd say refight some of those other battles,
Yeah.
not just the Battle of Waterloo or the Battle of Berlin or whatever it is.
Right, and I think that that's really apparent is that a lot of our history is lost, right? So you can't just assume that this is the only thing that was going on at the time.
Well-
so we don't know all the battles
Well,
that
Teras,
happened.
we don't even know what colour a Roman legionary's tunic was.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
We don't know. It might be linen. It might be red. We don't.
Right,
it might
right.
be, but they don't know.
Right, that's
the
great.
most basic thing.
Which
And
is
yet,
so
and yet
bizarre.
if you're in the pub with an ancient war game, and not all of them, most of them are lovely,
Right.
they'll say, "This is how Romans were." And you
Right,
say,
right.
"Really? We don't even know what tunic they had."
No, that's right.
And they say, "Well, that's what they look like for this period of 400 years." You think, "Well, that can't be right." You look at the British or Canadian soldier in 1939.
Right.
He's got a World War II, World War One battle bowler,
Right.
a gas mask on his chest,
Right.
Lee Enfield with a big spiky long sword bayonet.
Right.
You know, by 1941, he's lost that. That's gone.
Oh, yeah,
Different
of
helmet
course.
coming to 1944.
Right.
Probably got Bren guns. He's now got a spike bayonet. He's got
Right.
rid of the long bayonet.
one, yeah.
And that's in 3 years.
That's right.
Okay. And then that's not including what do the 8th Army look like wearing shorts.
Right,
different
of course,
wedding,
right,
you know,
right.
complete, and then look at paratroopers.
Right.
With their Denison smock.
Right.
And Sten guns now. You
Right,
know, they're
right,
all got-
exactly.
And then Piats, they're carrying Piats, and then look at the our Chindits in the Far East wearing the Australian bush hat.
Right.
You know, and look at the SAS with different stuff. All their equipment's completely different.
Different.
So you're telling me that Roman legionaries look like this?
Yeah, that's right.
From Hadrian's Wall to the
That's right.
Sinai Desert.
That's right.
I don't think so.
And you know all the stories that are in between too,
Yes.
right? Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I watched that. I read that Pelam one, and they didn't even know how they threw it.
No.
Like, which is strange because I always think Roman civilization is pretty documented and everything like that. But guess what? It wasn't.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, my big favourite period of war is World War II.
Right.
I am a complete World War II bore, accepted. And that still, every week I come across a picture of a tank I've never seen before.
really?
Or conversion.
A tank?
Or conversions,
Wow,
yes, conversions.
conversions.
You know. And you think, wow, I never knew that. And
That's
I've talked to
cool.
some of my... In fact, I've read the other day, and it's true, that in Normandy, when we all stormed ashore at Normandy, there were
Right.
45,000 Italians in Normandy. 45,000 Italian troops in Normandy. Nobody's ever shown that in a film
Yeah,
or a movie or
that's
in a book.
right, that's right.
Or fortress divisions and things like that. 45,000.
That's not a small.
That's
no,
not. That's
really.
huge.
Well, so the stories aren't told.
No.
Really?
it's all
Right.
there.
Okay, so they're
That's
go-
why
going
we
out
keep
there.
researching, isn't
That's
it?
right. That's right. I'll ask you one more. We were talking earlier about black powder, the price of black powder.
Price of black powder.
How did you how did black powder come to be?
It came to be because it was going to be a Warhammer historical
Right. Okay.
product, written originally by Jervis,
Okay.
and with a lot of help from Rick, I think. And it was being played around by the Perrys and me and Rick, and we were doing our circuit. And I was hoping to carry on with the Warhammer historical line because they were going to close it down.
Right.
So I was hoping to go off and do that, but in the end, Games Workshop decided they didn't want to license out the Warhammer historical
Right.
line. And so Rick, who's a good old mate, said, "Why don't you produce black powder, John?" To which I said, "Well, I don't have much money at the moment because I'm putting these toy soldiers together."
Right.
So he sold it to me for the princely sum of £1
£1.
and a curry.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think I've paid him the pound yet.
You didn't.
He's certainly had a few curries out of me, that's for sure.
Can I give you the pound for it?
Bargain. And yeah, no, Black Powder it's such a fabulous game.
Right.
We love it, and we've used it we even use it for playing early World War One in 15mm, actually 12mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For the mobile armies, from
Right.
the early days of German columns against
Right.
French and British lines. Works beautifully for that. A very forgiving set of rules.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of love for that game, and I remember when you first came out. I think we met first at Historicon.
We did, actually,
right?
yeah.
And that was. Thank you for that, by the way. I got to tell you, thank you a lot. Actually,
Oh.
you supported us a lot, and and have always been gracious and welcoming. And really, my second tour I did was the Miniatures of the UK, and couldn't have happened without you.
Oh, great.
So thank you. I have to.
You're welcome.
And I think there's a lot of people that would probably say the same. There's
Oh,
lots of
thanks.
amazing games that you produced and good fun around the world.
Well, still so much to go at, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, is there anything that you think you'd like to do? Like, is there anything that if you talked about your Germans. Is there anything else, or is there one like I would really like to do the plastics of that one in the future? Is there any period that you'd really like to conquer?
I'd like to remake our English Civil War ones. I've learned so much in the last 10 years about how to make plastic miniatures. I'd revisit those. Because they're okay and quite nice models, but I just think I could do a better job now.
And that's one of your big passions is the English Civil
War. Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's a fascinating. You know, there's only one film ever been made about the English Civil War. That's Cromwell in the 1960s.
Right.
With what's his name in it? Forgotten his name. Come to me. But it was such a pivotal war in English history, in British, well, European history, really.
Right.
First people who thought it was a good idea to cut kings' heads off and things like that. And so I find a period of, because you've got all the Irish are fighting, the Scots are fighting, the English are fighting, everybody's fighting, and there's different factions within there, and the Scots change sides. Of course.
Of course.
Richard Harris, that's who was Cromwell, who played a great loony Cromwell.
Right.
And I thought the kit looks cool.
Right.
Everybody likes a cavalier.
Of course.
But I'm just amazed that there's not more films about it.
Right.
Apart from one rather poor film, which I just mentioned. Yeah, that's why I like it.
Nice.
Would there be a book you'd recommend for English Civil War?
I would recommend Pike and Shot by Black Powder.
Oh no, I don't mean for gaming. I mean for like you're saying about history, for reading.
General. Yes, I think of it. Haythornthwaite. A chap called Haythornthwaite. He does a soft cover book. It's a little bit dated, but it tells you a potted history of the Civil War, and fabulous colour plates, and loads of flags and things. One book, all Haythornthwaite.
Where's 2000 AD at? What's the?
Oh, you best ask Paul on that one.
Yeah.
He's on next. He's a big 2000 AD fan.
That's who we're gonna.
He's your man.
Okay.
Well, I love 2000 AD. So it's very excited about the TV show, the Judge Dredd show coming out when that does.
You didn't know about that?
No.
Yeah, it's going to be
serious.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
Oh,
can't wait.
Wow.
If they make it humorous, then I'm going to die laughing.
Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah.
You and I
Is it a British production?
Yeah.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. So hopefully it'll be funny
Yeah.
and brutal.
Yeah, funny and brutal. That's exactly what
It
it
was a great magazine. That
was.
Anything else I can
All
help
right.
you with?
Nope. I think that we're
Are we
good.
done?
Thank you very much.
Well,
thank you very
thank
much.
you, Teras.
That was awesome.
Thanks for filming.
Remember to comment, subscribe, let us know how we're doing, and of course, if you have the chance, go and roll some dice with your friends and make merry. I'm sure John would appreciate that.